Welcome to today's episode of The Black Sales Professional. I'm your host, James M. Fields. And today, on today's episode, I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing a gentleman out of Atlanta by the name of Terrell Patton. Terrell is the managing broker and team leader at Keller Williams Realty Perimeter East, which is located in Tucker, Georgia. Terrell is a real estate broker and has over 20 years of experience and knowledge in residential sales management and team management and teaching the real estate brokerage industry. And this is the reason why he's on this podcast, because of his background and his ability to teach. I've seen followed him on Facebook. And so he's had his training has led him to grow the office from 42 real estate associates to now he manages over 200 real estate professionals. His leadership has led him to service on the DeKalb Association of Realtors Board of Directors, and he's a graduate of the Leadership DeKalb. And so, Terrell, welcome to the Black Sales Professional podcast, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me, James. Thanks for having me, brother.
Oh, no problem. And for our listeners, I do want to let you all know something. If Terrell mentions the name Michael or Mike, it's because we go back 30-something years. Me and Terrell's from me and him are homeboys. We went to high school together, played basketball together from St. Louis, Missouri, for those of you who don't know. And so, the big thing when I was in school was always people asking me, hey, James, what name you going to go by this year? And James or Michael. So, hey, but I wanted to really bring him on because he's been very, very successful. And if you're looking to get into real estate, if you're a real estate agent or what have you, the wealth of knowledge that he brings to the table is going to be very helpful, and he's definitely open to being a mentor and a coach and what have you to folks. So once again, welcome, Terrell. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with me and share your knowledge and insight with the listeners for today's podcast.
Wow. Hey, man, thank you once again. Thanks for having me, James. And this is definitely an honor to receive this call to be on here. When you're out and you're doing the work and, you're growing a sales business, you don't look to the end like this to think that you're just putting in the work, you're just doing the work. So to get this call, it's like, okay, 20 plus years. Wow. And to hear you read that bio, I'm like, man, that seemed like yesterday that I ventured off into professional sales. So it's an honor. It's an honor to be here, man. So thanks.
Well, speaking of that, let's talk about that. Talk about the path that led you from St. Louis, Missouri to Atlanta and to the real estate business overall and where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So going back, I've been in Atlanta a little over 27 years, and I left St. Louis. I was 22, so I'm telling my age right now. I'm 49, soon to be 50 this year.
Hey, I'm right there with you.
I know you are. It's weird to say that, right? But visiting. If you've ever visited Atlanta, it's a mecca. Especially for blacks. It really is. And visiting a couple of times, and my aunt was living here, and I said, you know what? I need a change. In St. Louis, they would really only allow you to have things like barbershops, and I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I can only own barbershops, car washes, things that I felt was, I want something bigger than that. I want bigger opportunity. And then one visit to Atlanta, I ran into some guys that were maybe 3 or 4 years older than me, and they were doing, really big things in sales. And I said, you know what? I need to get to Atlanta. And within 8 months, I was here, man. And, it started off with customer service jobs and and then that customer service side led to seeing, okay, the guys in sales are making 4 times what I'm making here in customer service. And they're wearing the nice suits and the nice watches. And I'm like, okay, what are they doing? And what does it take to be on that side of the organization? And at the time I was working for a place called Agents Communication, and I'll never forget it. So Agents was a telemarketing communication firm that handled different sales projects for different entities. And I was handling customer service for one of the entities, and they wanted to grow their sales force. So they gave me a shot. And I'll never forget, we were selling books for a small company out of South Carolina. And within the first month, I grew. They had about 18 sales associates on that project. And James, within the first month, I was number one in that. And I said, wow. And that's with no real sales training, no professional sales training. That was just being on the phone and talking. And one thing you know about me is that I'm a relationship guy. So it came natural. So that was my first stint at saying, wait a minute, you might have something here in sales. And around that time, that was in 96. So from 96 to 98 or something. And within around 97, I purchased my first home. And that's where I got the bug for real estate sales. Looking at the HUD one and looking at the number and knowing that I saw the house, I found the house, and this guy made a 3% commission off of it. And I was like, wait a minute, I need to be doing that. And not right away, because I was successful at Aegis and was on the fast track there. But I saw a commercial probably maybe 6 or 7 months after I closed on my house. And I said, you know what? I mean, the commercial was about real estate and how to get into real estate and how to go to school for it. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm doing that. And I went and got my real estate license in 98.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you've gotten your real estate license in 1998. And so now you're starting to sell. How long would you say before you got into the leadership aspect at Keller Williams, were you actually selling, or maybe you're still doing it today?
Yeah, no, I'm not in production anymore. I haven't personally been in production to sell a house because I don't compete with my agent. So I have not sold a house personally. I refer everything out since 2010. 2010 was the last time that I've actually sold a property on the production side. So I had a run from 98 till 2004 is when I received my broker's license. Okay. At my previous firm where I got my broker's license at, they allowed me to sell a little bit. And in 2008, the correction happened. And I went to the owners and I said, I have to sell a lot, because a lot of agents were getting out. And if you know how managing brokers are compensated, majority of our compensation comes off of the profit of the market of the office. So the owner profit. So with everybody going back to get quote unquote real jobs is what they call it. Like real estate is not a job. It's definitely a job. I ended up going to the ownership group and say, hey, I have to sell more. And they allowed me to do that. And I was literally on a trip. So I have to tell this story. I was literally on a trip. I've only been with 2 brokerages. I was with my former broker for 11 years, and I've been with Keller Williams ever since. So this is 2009, in the height of the correction. A friend of mine was having a birthday, and a group of us went out to Vegas. So we're in Vegas at the Bellagio, and I'm reading a book that a Keller Williams agent had given me at closing. So he was a co-op. So he gave me a book it was called Shift. So it was about the market shifting that Gary Keller had wrote. So I'm reading this book on the plane, long flight. I'm like, I'll read it. And when I couldn't put it down. So we get to Vegas. We had a reservation for a cabana we're at the Bellagio. We had a reservation for the cabana that afternoon. So I take the book down with me. And this lady walks across. She sees the book. She walks across. She said, you must be in real estate. You're reading that book. She never mentioned Keller Williams. and she just proceeded to ask questions, James, that no one had ever asked me in, 10 years at the time being in real estate or really being in sales, period. She was posing a lot of questions about me, about my future self. My big why is what she was really getting to. Like, why are you in sales? Basically, it was deep real quick. She was a brilliant lady. She never mentioned Keller, and she said, "You're a very interesting guy. I'd love to invite my husband and I like to get in business with 12 people every year. I'd love to invite you to this event that I'm having in a couple of months. It's in Austin, Texas." I was using my business card as a bookmark. So I was like, "Here, give me a call." Because I didn't know what she was selling, what she was talking about. Because I wasn't good at asking questions at that time, right? So I didn't ask questions. She was asking all. She was controlling the conversation. So long story short, this lady ended up being the third person in charge of all of Keller Williams, right? And so she invited me to this event. I went, she flew me out. I got to meet Gary Keller, everybody, right? And I came back to Atlanta and I ended up joining Keller Williams probably about 4 or 5 months after that. And it totally changed my life. I was still selling. I sold for maybe 6 months, and then it was a correction. So the office was totally failing. They went from 130 agents down to like 40, 42. And they asked me to step in. I told them no. They pleaded with me to step in and take over the office. And after one leadership meeting with Keller Williams, I accepted the challenge because it was definitely a challenge at the time. And I think we'll get to this later, but I want to tell any of the listeners that opportunity, when it comes knocking, it's especially for us as Blacks in this sales, it's not going to come wrapped up in a bow. A lot of times when we get our shot and get our opportunity, James, it's going to be ugly. But if you believe in yourself and believe in your skills, and it's a good foundation, a good product, then I challenge you, the listeners, to take that challenge, because opportunity for us doesn't always come wrapped in a bow.
Very, very, very good point, and very true. Now,
Yeah.
Terrell, let me ask you this. Being an African American male in Georgia, how has that been as far as selling is concerned? We both grew up in St. Louis. We know, we went to Hazelwood West, so we know about the overt racist stuff that's out there.
Yes.
Now you're going into Georgia, and I went to school with FAM, so I mean Georgia is in this Confederate state.
Absolutely.
How was it for you being a Black real estate agent in Georgia?
It was tough. It goes back to the last statement I made, James, that even back then, the deals that you would come into and the people that you actually had to help to get your start, those deals weren't the best. They were deals where people wanted way more for their house, or there were deals where it was a shack and you had to sell it. But once you take on those challenges, then people begin to trust you. So I think, to answer your question in a nutshell, I had to work harder than my counterparts, and I had to take on things that, other people that didn't look like me didn't have to take on. That the trust factor was there much sooner for those than for me.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, as a sales leader, and a managing broker of the office, what are some of the characteristics that you look for people that are looking to get into real estate sales and possibly joining your office?
That's a great question, James. I've learned in sitting across from thousands of agents and that's getting into this business, or agents that are running, $20 million businesses. I meet with all of them to associate them with my firm. And the one thing I look for is agents who are motivated. Agents have to be, they got to want to grow. They have to want to grow. If an agent wants to grow and if an agent is coachable, then those are the agents I look for. And there's a simple technique that I use when I'm sitting across from someone. Really has not a whole lot to do with their background, but I'll ask two questions. And the first one being, what's next for you? This is after they've told me what they've done, where they've sold, whether it's real estate or anything else, or what profession that they're coming from. I'll ask what's next. That'll show me if they're in a growth mindset, right? And then the other question is, tell me about the one thing that's happened between high school or college that you're most proud of. And if it's taken them more than like 45 seconds to answer that, I'm digging deeper and questioning, are they a growth mindset type of person? So the first thing is you have to get in business with people that want to grow. If they want to grow, you can train them. Does that answer your question? Is that
absolutely?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Wonderful. Yeah, because you make a very good point, and that is that if a person, in order to really develop people, they have to want to be developed. So they have to, and a person who's hungry and is motivated to grow, they're the type of individuals that are going to be, they're like sponges. They're out there seeking up all the knowledge that they can get. Those individuals who've been around for a long period of time and kind of set in their ways and they're just kind of coasting, they're not really interested in learning anything new because they don't want to grow.
Absolutely.
Now,
they think they know it all too.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely true. And so now when a person's interviewing with you, how do how can they convince you that they're a good fit for your agency?
We're really culturally sound, meaning that we believe in God, family, and then business. So agents have to have those characteristics, and I mean in that order. And I don't care, what faith or, what higher being that is, but we believe in, those things, God, family, and then business next. So there's questions that I may go to find out what's their why, and seeing what motivates them. It has to be deeper than the money. So there's a series of questions that I may go through to find out, what's their why. And one of them is that what's next for you. And then, a lot of times they'll answer that in a sales number or a profit number. And, I'll say something like, well, when that happens, what is that going to do for you, James? And I can take a trip and all of that, So James, so you're going to take a trip. Great. If you take a trip, where would you go? Oh, I'm going to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks. Great. Going to Hawaii for 2 weeks, man, that's awesome. And once you achieve that and you go to Hawaii for 2 weeks, what does that do for you? Right? Oh, it allows me to clear my mind. It allows me to take vacation, to come back recharged. Awesome. You come back recharged. What does that do for you? And then once you peel that onion back, you see what's their why, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's who you want to be in business with. And it's funny when you go through that and you dig deep with people, they respect you too, and they want to be part of your organization because you've helped them uncover what's most important to them as well. So yeah, just a couple of questions, man, and just dig deep right there.
Cool. You know what, Terrell? You are known for your personality, your training, and what have you. And since the Black Sales Professional, we're about helping develop and enhance the careers of African Americans and other and the individuals of color. When a person's looking to, if you had three things that you, or pieces of advice that you would give somebody that is entering into the real estate industry, what are the three things that you tell them that are most important to know and to master in the first year?
Man, I would say build a database. So everyone you know, everyone that you, from far back as you can remember, I would say build a database, right? So that's name, phone number, email, birthdays, and physical address. Those five components make up a database, because now you can, market to those people, because those are the people who know you, like you, trust you, and more likely are the ones that's going to do business with you or refer you to their closest friends and family. So build a database first. The second thing I would say is feed that database every day. So block off an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or however long it takes to continue to add people to that database or get more data on the people that's already there, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is build it, feed it every day. And the last thing is probably one of the most important ones, is to service every lead that comes from it. So if someone calls you, whatever you're selling with, if we're talking real estate, someone calls you and they have a friend that's thinking about real estate, or they're thinking about investing, or make sure you service the business that's coming from, the first two components. So those three things: build a database, feed it every day, and service all the business that come through it on a very high level. Because I often ask my agents, who's your competition? Who's the biggest competition that you have? And a lot of times they'll answer that where it's another agent in their market, right? And I say, yeah, is that right? I said, I beg to differ. And they'd be like, what do you mean? No, she's number one, or he's number one. And I'll say, your biggest competition, I said, if have you ever stayed at the Ritz-Carlton? They'll say, yeah, I've been. I said, you go to the Ritz-Carlton, have you ever touched the door handle? You know what? I haven't. They open every door for you when you enter into, they have like 10 people standing out there, right? I said, have you ever really seen paper on the floor or anything? No, because they have a high standard of customer service at the Ritz-Carlton, right? Everyone there, from the vice president or GM, if they walk past, they see paper on the floor, they're picking it up. They're servicing their clients. I said, if you absolutely have to get a package somewhere the next day, who do you think of, James?
Oh, FedEx.
Exactly. That's service, right? So I said, that's your competition. If you have your database, people you know or people you've met, and you put in that database, and you're servicing them on a high level, like the Ritz-Carlton or FedEx, or when they think of real estate, they think of you. How is Susie Smith, who sells 100 homes, your competition? She's not, because these people know you, like you, and trust you. So, and you're servicing them on such a high level. I don't care how many homes Susie Smith sold, they're going to use you. So your biggest competition is FedEx, Ritz-Carlton, Amazon is an ecosystem now. So but those are the people or the companies you want to mimic your business after, so that you can, drive your there is no competition when you have that. Does that make sense, man?
It does. It does,
Get,
definitely. So in other words, separate yourself and make it so that your the service that you deliver is so high that the only people that those individuals in your circle or that are going to think of you. That's good.
absolutely. Now, there's one other point I want to say on that, and this is new because of what we're in this digital age, and I think the listeners might understand this as well. So there's three things that companies are doing now, and salespeople should be doing it. Anyone that's really running a business or in the industry should think of this. There's three components. One is unique, one is mutually exclusive, and the third one, the highest level, and these are levels. So the first level is unique, the second one is mutually exclusive, and the third one is an ecosystem, James. And if you think of unique, think of Prime Video, right? That's a unique service, right? Prime Video. So you might have Prime Video and another service to stream it, right? A mutually exclusive relationship is Amazon Prime. So you might have Amazon Prime or a different system. But if you have Amazon Prime, you're getting video streaming within that, right?
Gotcha.
You're locked down with Amazon. If you get Prime, Amazon Prime got you locked down with video everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ecosystem is Amazon, where they got all these different parts, right? You got Google, where if you have Google products, you got the phone, you got the computer, you got all of these things. Apple, these are things that you only use. Like I have a Mac, I have an iPhone, I have a pad. I'm an Apple person. So I only use Apple products. So that's an ecosystem. And reason being, it's so hard for me to buy a Google product or Microsoft, any of those other products, because I'm so locked into Apple's ecosystem. So what I described about the data, having a database, feeding it and servicing it really well, what you're doing ultimately is locking your people into your ecosystem.
Gotcha.
So if they think of real estate, they're only going to call me. You got it?
I got it.
Yeah.
Now, let's take this a step farther. Let's look at somebody. Let's say you have some individuals who they've been in the industry for a little while, and they're kind of struggling. And I'm quite sure, over the 20 years, you've encountered those individuals who have just gone into a period of time where they've tried, but they're struggling. They're struggling trying to find their groove. What pieces of advice or would you give to them to get them back on track?
Right. I would say the first thing I would do is call. I would look at how many people I feel I know, whether that's past clients, friends, family. I would make that list and I would personally call every one of them. I would break it down. I would call 10 of them a day. Those 10 that I call, I'd write them a handwritten note, mail it to them, and get them in my database. And I would put them on drip campaigns. We call them smart plans, but I would touch them at least over 36 times in a year. So that's a series of, 27 emails. I would call them once a quarter. So that's 4 phone calls. And I would invite them to some type of event, whether that's a Zoom right now, because we're in a virtual world, a Zoom happy hour or pie giveaways, something, run a contest on Facebook, something to engage them. That's it. I would start with my people because, like I said, I know I sound like a broken record. These are the people who know you, like you, and trust you, and more likely going to do business with you or refer you. 100%. And can I expound on that a little bit?
You sure can.
Because you got to think, a lot of agents go to marketing. Like they'll spend a lot of time on Facebook and Instagram and social media marketing themselves. But when you do that, you're competing with, thousands and thousands of agents. And I'm not saying that's not important, but that shouldn't be your number one thing. Yeah, you should do that, but your number one thing should be the people who already know you. You should be investing that time, and your dollars, majority of your dollars and majority of your time need to go to the people who know you, like you, and trust you. Whether you think they're in position to purchase a home or sell a home or not, those are the ones who's going to refer people to you as well.
Hmm.
So I would start there. There's no silver bullet, man. It's going to the people who know you and like you and trust you the most.
Speaking of that, you mentioned that there's no silver bullet, and sales, definitely there's no silver bullet. It's a learned profession. Um, what type of training does Keller Williams and do you provide over the course of a year for your agents to help make sure that you're sharpening those knives?
I like that. I like that. So outside of training them to lead generate for real estate business to grow their families, we're also training them. We call it a LID, right? LID. So we train them on what is their lifestyle consist of. So if you have a lifestyle that say, hey, I have to make $80,000 to run the lifestyle that I have. That's to take my trips, to pay my mortgage, all my bills, car notes, all of those things, right? I need 80 grand, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just not expenses. That's living, going, taking trips, everything. And then the I is in LID is investments. So we write it out to where we help an agent know how much they have to have in investments within the next 5 years to fund that lifestyle, right? So if we're saying 80 grand, then if they want to buy 8 houses in the next years, that's worth 100 grand. Now they're replacing the 80 grand that they need to make. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
We're having them on that path. And then we're always talking to them about the D, which is debt. We're always talking to them about paying their taxes on time, paying off student loans, and all of those things. So when we add all three of those up for the year, James, 80,000 that they need to make another 20 to invest in at least one real estate property to hold. And they may need to make another 10,000 to make sure that their taxes and all of those things are paid or paying off debt. Right? So we take that 80 plus that 20 and that 10, they actually need to make 110,000, right? Because they're setting up for their future.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is where I'm going with that. Training to speak to the agent as a whole person is what we give. We don't just train agents in real estate. That's a byproduct. At Keller Williams, we train you on a lifestyle. We train you, to set yourself up for your future self. Remember I mentioned the lady was posing all those questions to me at the pool, and it was like, whoa, nobody's ever asked those questions. That's what we do. So outside of getting the real estate training, we're training you as the whole person.
Wow. Okay. That's powerful.
Yeah, because, and I'll tell you a story. It goes something like this. I know I'll butcher it, but there was a guy, and his son said, Dad, we're going to go throw the ball. And his dad would always say, yeah, we're going to throw it tomorrow. We'll throw it tomorrow. And so this was on a Friday night. His dad said, okay, Saturday, we are going to go and we're going to throw the ball in the morning. When you wake up, we're going to go in the yard. We're going to throw the ball. So the dad thought he was slick. He got up really early so he can read the paper and have a cup of coffee before his son wakes up. And he promised him they go throw the ball this morning, right? And so the son, the dad, as soon as his coffee's done, he sit down, he gets comfortable in his favorite chair, and he's reading the paper. And his son bolts down the stairs like, Dad, you ready? Fully dressed, glove in hand, ball ready to go. So his dad was like, oh. God, I got to at least finish this cup of coffee. So his dad was reading the paper. He gave him a piece of the paper. And in the paper, there was a picture of a world map, right, in the section. So he tore it up. He tore it into a bunch of pieces and said, all right, go put this this globe together. When you put it together, we're going to go outside. Trying to buy himself 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever, right? His son goes and puts it, it's on the table. His son puts it together in like 2 minutes. He's like, how did you do that? Well, they had a glass table. His son had dropped a piece of the paper and saw that on the flip side of the paper was a picture of a man. So all the son did was turned it over, put the face of the man together. Now the globe is all, the world, the map, whatever it was together. And his dad, and he said, Dad, there's a picture of a face of a man right here. The moral of that is this, James. We learned and understand at Keller Williams is that if we train and coach and teach people to put themselves together first, then they can go out and help their neighbor, then they can help their community, then they can help their city, then they can help their state, then they can start to make an impact around the world. But it doesn't happen until you put the person together, the man together, or the woman together, right? So that's our principle. We speak to the entire person. That's why those questions up front, who am I getting in business with, and are you willing to grow? Not just grow a sales business, are you willing to grow as a person? Because we know if we can help you grow as a person, you're going to help that many more people, starting with your family. Yeah. That's why we say God, family, then business.
Powerful.
That was long-winded, James, but
hey, man, no, that was that. You know what? Hey, that was. You know what? Thank you very much. And one of the messages that I want to give to our listeners really quickly is this. I brought Terrell on here so that he could give his insight and expertise to the real estate, to those individuals who are interested in real estate or are in real estate and are needing that little push. And so hopefully today you've gathered small nuggets of information. And matter of fact, he's dropped a lot of knowledge. So, hey, you really should have been taking some notes. And if not, if you haven't, go ahead and listen to this podcast again, because he's given a wealth of information. But following up, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you go and you join the Black Sales Professional LinkedIn group. And because Terrell's going to be out there, you can send him information. You can ask him questions about maybe if you're looking to get your real estate license, or if you have a real estate license and you're in the business right now and you just need some nuggets of information, like talking about, hey, how do you go about building that database and other things? By all means, reach out to him. He's on LinkedIn. He's on Facebook. You can reach him at Keller Williams. He's open to having a dialogue with and helping you and coaching and being a mentor no matter where you are in the United States. And so, Terrell, bro, thank you very much for being a part of this episode. And I know that in the future, I'm going to invite you to come back and talk a little bit more specific to various topics that have to do with real estate for people, so that they can and get some more of that knowledge of information that you want to impart on them. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much, bro. And hey, is there anything that you want to say to our audience before we leave?
No, man, this has been a lot of fun. And I'll say again, thank you so much for the invite. And I'll definitely jump on that LinkedIn. If anybody's listening, I'm on Facebook at Terrell Patton. That's Terrell, Patton like the general, Patton. And on Instagram at T Patton Broker at T Patton Broker. Yeah. My email address out, but yeah, at T Patton Broker.
Wonderful. And hey, before I sign off, as always, please, if there's any other topics that you all want to hear from us on Black Sales Professional, go into the LinkedIn group and submit your topics, or you can email me at jmfields1001@gmail.com, and you can submit your request there. I'll do my best to interview those individuals who you want to have on the podcast and get as much knowledge and information to you as possible. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, you can get it today. You can go out right on Apple iTunes and you can subscribe there. It's on Spotify as well as it's on Spreaker. So until next time, have a great day. Take care.
Thank you, man. Awesome.
There we
LL Patton, like the general, Patton, and on Instagram at tpattonbroker at tpattonbroker. Yeah. My email address out, but yeah, at tpattonbroker.
Wonderful. And hey, before I sign off, as always, please, if there's any other topics that you all want to hear from us on the Black Sales Professional, go into the LinkedIn group and submit your topics, or you can email me at jmfields1001@gmail.com, and you can submit your request there. I'll do my best to interview those individuals who you want to have on the podcast and get as much knowledge and information to you as possible. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, you can get it today. You can go out right on Apple iTunes and you can subscribe there. It's on Spotify as well as it's on Spreaker. So until next time, have a great day. Take care.
Thank you, man.